In this session, we will talk about dereferencing, particularly plagiarism, citing and references, how should they be, bibliography, citing, quoting, and the conditions where requires support. Okay. Why do we cite the work of others? The main thing is we try to acknowledge the work of other writers and researchers because it's to, give them credit for that purpose, and to demonstrate the body of knowledge on which our own work is based. So where do we ground our work? Like it would be our support as well. And to enable the reader to trace our sources easily and lead her on to further information. So we give the readers a chance to go back and read from our sources as well, so that maybe they can invent better things, so they can end up with different researches. We should keep in mind that we do not cite to indicate that we have copied text from another source. That would be plagiarism itself. You can make this mistake in preliminary school, or okay, if we press it much, maybe in secondary school as well. You can call it a mistake, but in a level of graduate study, this is also a way or a means of plagiarism. Okay. What is plagiarism? There are several ways to do that. We just let's see. The verbatim, what does it mean? Word for word copying of another's work without appropriate and correctly presented acknowledgement. Yes, this happens. It's a very severe form of that. And this is pretty common. The close paraphrasing of another's work by simply changing a few words or altering the order of presentation without appropriate and correctly presented acknowledgement. This is also a problem, of course. It's like maybe just a simple analogy. You just copy the source code from your friend and just change the variable names and maybe the lines of code, but it does the same thing. In fact, it's plagiarism. It's pretty similar to that, we can say. And the other one is unacknowledged quotation of phrases from another's work. We just discussed, like yes, you can copy them, but we need to also acknowledge them with quotation. And the deliberate and detailed presentation of another's concept as one's own, just to present something as if we did that. It's again a kind of plagiarism. Copying of another's work, then adding a reference to that work is not considered an appropriate and correctly presented acknowledgement. Okay, maybe we can say that it's a gray area, but it is also plagiarism. Let's see. Verbatim copying is only allowed in the context of proper quotation, and you should avoid it as much as possible. We should use this only where it really makes sense. Otherwise, we should avoid copying, word for word copying from other researchers' papers, publishings. Okay, what constitutes a good source in our documents? Precise location. Sufficient information must be given for a third person to be able to locate your source, so that they could reach it. That's, I think, the most basic thing. Otherwise, it would be mysterious. Mysterious sources would not help us to advance science. And the longevity of the source is also important. Of course, journals are the most reliable ones in this sense, and the web sources are the most unreliable ones. Okay, you can access them today, but 5 years later, all links will be frogs. So it's These are better sources for references. And the accessibility of the source, completely free ones are better. Free subscription ones are so-so, and paid ones are not a good idea, because we should avoid private communication as best as possible. So we should rely on completely free and free subscription ones as best as possible. But of course, if we are in dire need, we can go ahead and link paid sources as well. The reputation and quality of the source is also important. Some journals have higher ranks, some conferences have higher ranks. Of course, the reputation of the source is also important, because you can tell me that there are thousands of conferences and journals. I mean, are they the same quality, all of them? Of course not. Yeah. And the originality, the original paper should be referenced all the time as possible. Secondary papers and translations we should avoid them. And the language, if possible, a source should be in the language you write in. Suppose that we're trying to publish a paper in study in English, for example. If I put some Turkish references in, or maybe Arabic, for example, references in the bibliography, it would be, meaningless. And the readability of the source is also important. Well-written ones should be preferred over badly written ones, of course, because it will not be easy to read them again. So these ones are the principles or primary properties of good sources in your reference list. Now let's make some definitions, basic definitions. What is citing referencing? It is formally recognizing within your text the sources from which you have obtained information. You just give credit. A citation quotation is a passage of words quoted within your text to support it with a reference to its source. You're just copying from there. And reference, a detailed description of a source from which you have obtained information. Okay, list of references, list of all sources which are cited in the body of your work. And bibliography is list of all sources which have been consulted in preparation of work, although they may not be directly cited within the text. This is the difference between, simple difference between, basic difference between list of references and bibliography. In the list of references, everything should be cited within the body of work. In bibliography, you may not cite some of them, then it becomes bibliography. Now, when you're citing, we should rely on some rules of thumb for proper work. If you discuss a paper in detail or note some particular contribution it makes, it must be cited. Okay, that's 2 + 2 is 4. Claims, statements of fact, discussions of previous work should be supported by references. If not supported by your current work, if it is not your work, they should be the claims should be supported by others already published work. How can I give example here? For example, suppose that if we say that Suermont-Cooper algorithm, for example, reaches gets the optimum solution in 70% of cases, and if it is not your work, it is relied on someone else's work, it should be cited. But do not cite for common knowledge. Cite to support common knowledge because everyone knows them. So you see that this is a trade-off here. Do not cite to support common knowledge, and do not end every sentence with a reference. Then it means that, again, it would look absurd. References to your own previous work is allowed if it is relevant to, really relevant to your current work. Otherwise, gratuitous self-reference is counterproductive and unethical as well. You should attribute work correctly in particular when relying on secondary sources. This is also another common mistake. Look, this one is much better. According to Kelly, as he wrote this paper in, and she wrote this paper in 1959, as quoted by Dawson's, because you read this one in Dawson's paper. Stable graphs are closed. However, if you write it like this, it makes a wrong impression that Dawson's, it was Dawson's comment. Also, the other one is also problematic because you haven't read this paper. Suppose that you write here Kelly instead. Again, this is not ethical and also not proper as well, because you never read this paper. Okay, Dawson read this paper, so it is his comment or his claim about Kelly's proposed idea, whatever. Okay, so we should say that this is the best approach for citing properly. And the references. References need to include the following information with the order and format depending on the chosen style. There are several styles, but they should include this. Authors or editors responsible for writing and editing the work cited, title and subtitle of the work, where the work can be obtained or found, with journal, and the year that work was created, presented, or published. What kind of information is required about where the work can be obtained depends on its type. What type of publishing is that? Now, when you give references about the books, you need to include this: authors or editors, title and subtitle, edition, if not the first, so it's more like optional. Okay, this one is optional. Series and individual volume number, if any, again this one is optional. Publisher should be included. Place of publication, okay, optional. Year of publication are important. You see, these are pretty strict. You need to have them. For example, these are good examples. You can check them yourselves. Okay, see, for example, authors and editors here, the title and subtitle here, and the edition is here, and the studies series individual volume number is this one here, publisher is this one, and place of publication also here, and year of publication also here, something like this. And references to chapters or sections of a book can be given like this. Authors of the chapter section should be given. Title and subtitle of the chapter or section should be given. Author and editor of the collected work. Title and subtitle of collected work. Chapter section referred to. Page numbers of chapter and section which have been referred. Publisher. And the place of publication, this one is optional. And year of publication must be included. For example, this one is not bad one. Again, a fairly good example here, as you can match all of them here. Okay, again the authors, for example, just okay, this one is the publisher. For example, I will just show you a few examples. That's it, like the pages given here. Okay, like the year, whatever. Okay, it's a good one. You can check yourself. And the references to conference proceedings should be given with the editors, name and number of conference, location of conference, if okay, it's optional if appropriate, time of conference, title, and the series and individual volume number, if any, it's optional, publisher, place of publication, and year of publication. Again, this one is a good example, you see. So it's the for example, second international joint conference here, like name and number of the conference here. Okay, it's short name here. As you see, the year is here. Like this is the publisher, and place of publication. Where is the place of publication? Right here. Blah blah. Okay, this one is here. And the references within those, conference proceedings are just referencing conference papers. How do we reference them? The authors of the paper, title and subtitle of the paper, all information on the conference proceedings, these ones all included, see, these are all included, plus page numbers of the paper as well, okay, so that everything is the same as the conference proceedings, but instead of editors, editors are here, but we also add the authors as well, and title and subtitle of the paper as well, so it's a bit more detailed because you keep all the information from conference proceeding reference same, but add these are add these three to all of them, okay, these are additional. I'm sorry, these are additional, this one, and this one are additional. Oops, this one are additional to conference proceedings reference. Okay. And let's continue with the journal articles now. A journal article should be referenced with the authors of the article, title and subtitle of the article, title of the journal, volume and part number, page numbers in the article, date, month, season of the year if appropriate, if they are available, it's optional, and the year of publication, also important. You should note that information on publisher is typically not required here. No need for that. So there are some two examples here, this one and this one. You can just match them with their year of publication, pages, volume numbers, like the authors, and what is the journal title. This one is Cigarette Bulletin, for example, whatever. Okay, those are good examples and you can check them yourselves. References to thesis and dissertation are given like this: the author of the work, title and subtitle of the work, type of work, awarding institution, including its address, and year, possibly month of publication. This one is optional, but you should put the year here. Like, for example, you see some theses here, this one and this one, as their locations and universities and their year, their titles, whatever. Okay. And there are also references to web pages. These are the most unreliable ones, but we can use them, of course, in need. And the authors of the web pages, title and subtitle, URL, the address, and the date of last modification if available, if this is optional, and date of access, these are required, and this one is optional. We can say that this one is optional. For example, these are some examples. This one or this one, like it has been updated in this date and it has been accessed in this date, just like this. Now let's take a look at some good and bad examples. As you see, the good additions here are given in blue color, you see. This is a bad one where you need to define the name of the publisher and, for example, the year. And this one is, again, you need to put the publisher, full book name is missing, and the edition is missing. So it gives you an idea that it's the first edition, but in fact it's set as second edition and it must be addressed, and the year is missing here. And also, let's take a look at this workshop proceeding here. Okay, now like these are the editors, and you see that it has been published in this one. You see the date here. It is more in detail, and the publisher here, and the year is missing here. You see web address here, URL below, but this one is very bad. But in fact, so the author, okay, the URL, and last modification and last access date are given here. This one is much better, as you see. Okay, now let's continue with the bibliography styles. There are several ones. These are the most popular ones. The ordinal number, this is one of the popular ones. Author date and abbreviations, all are possible in research papers. Let's start with the ordinal number first. Here the sources are listed in the bibliography are sorted according to some ordering, typically based on the author's names and numbered consecutively. That's the idea. There are numbers there. And the references in the text are given as lists of numbers cross-referencing the bibliography, enclosed in square brackets like this. Like you put here a number, the reference number. Key techniques for utilizing, there's an example here, I'm not reading it, but you see that the references are given like this. This is for multiple reference, this is for single reference. When you check the bibliography, you can see their details below. How should those details be? We just discussed this in the previous slides, right? And let's go ahead with the author date numbering style, which is also named APA style. That's one. That's pretty similar. Okay, sources in the reference list are arranged alphabetically by the author's names. That's the difference. Where there is more than one work by the same authors, they are arranged by year of publication. The earlier ones should come first, starting with the earliest. Where there is more than one work with the same authors and date, a letter is added to the year of publication to distinguish them. For example, if she has two papers, you just write them like this. Let's take a look at them again. See, Wolper has two publications in 1996. So they are separated with letters. And you see here the bibliography like this. Okay. A reference is given by the author's names and the date enclosed in parentheses unless the author's names are part of the sentence, like see here, for example, unless they are in the sentence. But they're in the if they are in the sentence, you mention them like this. While Wolper does not argue whatever, you just write them like this. This is an example for quoting. The following is an extract from Wolper. You just put them in brackets, but I mean nothing here. And this one is an example of again citation here in the text. This one is used for comparison or just giving an idea about opposite references. Okay, so like the completion procedure may fail in general, but several studies used it and showed how useful it is in these counter examples. Like then you reference them with CF. This is also a notation for referencing. And abbreviation style can be used. It's a mix of ordinal number style and author date style. It's a mix. Sources in the bibliography are presented like in ordinal number style, but instead of numbering them, each source is given a unique identifier code based on author names and year of publication with additional letters to disambiguate the duplicate abbreviations. As you see, C. Clark, G. Grunberg, and Pellet published this in 2000. Okay, Wundergut. You see that three letters are reserved for the author and 2 digits are for the year. And for example, Wolper's publication is a single author named as Wall in 1996, but since he has two publications, A and B separates them, whatever. And references in the text are given as lists of abbreviations of cross-referencing the bibliography, and again enclosed in square brackets like the ordinal style. They stay in square brackets. For example, this one and this one and this one, this one, like this one is exactly the same thing, but in abbreviation style. As you see, this one is in this one the same part of text. Okay, this one is in author date style, the same thing. In fact, you can check them, you can read them later yourselves. And organizing references is, again, depends on the style. There are myriads of styles for references and bibliographies. You should maintain information on your sources in a neutral format so that you can use any, you can transform that in any style you want later. Ideally, you should use a tool which supports such a neutral format, allows to add, delete, modify references, allows to search for references as well, interacts with your word processor text editor in order for you to prepare the document, and it generates a list of references in any desired format, just in case you can publish to different organizations. You can send your publication to different organizations. There are several reference management tools for this purpose, generated for this purpose. These are the most popular ones. Of course, there are many more, as you can see here. Let's take just overview them one by one, starting from this one. Okay, Zotero. Zotero is a free referencing tool that allows you to collect, cite, organize, and share resources. Like, it has a browser extension as well. Just it helps you to get the information while you're browsing. It has a parser. Okay, Mendeley is a popular one. I used it for a while. Again, it's free. And it looks like, in fact, social networks as well. Maybe I can say that it supports collaborative work a bit better, maybe a bit more friendly about that. And you can also share your document databases with your friends, with your colleagues, easier in that way. These are both free, which makes them interesting. And EndNote is a reference management tool that allows you to import references directly from online sources such as PubMed, Web of Science, Library of Congress, and also, for example, Springer also supports that. They already have support for this. But it has a price, like, I mean, either your institution should provide it or you need to have a license yourself. And again, ProQuest RepWorks is similar. It's similar to EndNote. It's web-based, but different. It's a web-based reference database because its database is stored online, like software as a service. Maybe it's just platform is a bit different, but it has the same similar functionality. And Citavi is, again, a reference management tool that combines referencing with task management. Like, again, it is paid. It's not free. Paperpile is a Google Docs add-on if you don't want to use, for example, Microsoft services like Word or something. If you will use Google Docs, maybe it could be interesting for you. And what else? JobRef is management software for LaTeX. As you see, it's a free tool as well. It's pretty useful. This is maybe interesting if you want to use it for Mac. Okay, Papers is also another option. And finally, Docker, given here. It works on multi-platforms as well. The interesting thing is it's a free as well. Very nice. So you can choose one of them and you can see the details on the web. You can try yourself and which one suits better for you. Most probably you already have a favorite tool since you're here. Anyway, but you can try and check yourself. Tools like these help you to maintain a large set of bibliographic references. They ease the burden of referencing and generating lists of references according to a specific style based on where you're sending your work. If no specific style is requested, then providing all necessary information about each of your sources in a consistent way is the most important aspect of bibliography, so that you will be organized. But this is very important. Beware that the way you formulate sentences in your body of text, which include references, depends on the referencing style. Changing that style later on is time-consuming and error-prone. Okay, but be careful. If you prepare your work or write your body of text in this style, then changing to this, maybe, I mean, not easy. It's not a direct step. You should do it carefully and with great attention. Okay, as we discuss about the citing process, rules of thumb here, if you discuss a paper in detail or note some particular contribution it makes, it must be cited. Claims, statements of fact, discussions of previous work should be supported by references, if not supported by your current work. But you shouldn't be, I mean, supporting them every common thing here. We just discussed about this. Let's take a look at some examples here. This is the original text here. You see something not good here, not proper here. And students' paper cites this or takes the references this like this. You see the blocks of text directly copied from here, especially here. See? Of relations, like here. See? This is wrong. This is not proper. If you're okay, if you don't do this intentively, or if you make this as a mistake, no problem. But you should be. But of course, it's a problem. But it's understandable. When you learn it, you shouldn't do it. I mean, but if you know it and doing it, it means that it's plagiarism. That's the simple difference between them. So this one is much better. You see the second one. You can read it yourself, so that you just give an idea of the text here by citing it correctly. A reference in ordinal number style never starts a sentence. These are also some rule of thumb. Again, continued. For example, you cannot put reference here. Instead, it should be at the end of the sentence, this one. In ordinal number style, a list of references is a comma-separated list of... Okay, this is not good. Instead, you should use this one. This one is good, this one is bad. Okay. And a reference never occurs in the section heading. These are both wrong, okay? We never do this, give references in the headings. A reference never comes up after a full stop. So this is wrong, you see? But it should be like this. And you should be aware of the differences between ordinal number style and author date style. Okay, this one is wrong. But if you write it in APA, now it is correct. Or this one is, again, if you're going to keep it in ordinal style, it would be nice. See, you should reference them like this. And here you can see some correct use of author's date style references. You see, okay, I mean, they're all nice. You can read them yourself. And an example from a student's text again, you see, this one is with the quotation. They are direct copying here, but given credit properly. Okay. Okay, again similar. See, this one is good. Source stated. These are again good. You see, always good examples here. You can check them yourself. Okay, but I said this before, we discussed this before, you should avoid excessive quotation. And quotation is only appropriate where you want to comment on the statements made by someone else, or where the quote is of some historical signification, if it is very important. In all other cases, use your own words. Try to avoid quoting as much as possible. Now let's continue with evidence and support. Again, we look at an example taken from a student's text here. As you see that she claims that this one revolutionized the field of AI. Like, this is stating an opinion, not a generally known and accepted fact. As such, it needs support. So you need to support this one either by your work I mean, the work you did yourself or by some other's work. Support could be provided by some statistical evidence or by a reference. For example, we make up a statistical evidence here, like so it means that you're getting support from another study, so that it makes sense. This is called support. And this one is also again taken. Again, this one is stating an opinion, not a generally known and accepted fact. Support could be provided by an argument or by a reference. A reference could point to a scientific paper where this opinion stated and argued for. An argument could be an example illustrating the advantage of approximate over exact reasoning. So, if that example is taken from a source, then that source needs to be referenced. If you're finding an example yourself, that's okay. But if you're taking it from another source, then you should cite it. And we see some corrections here. Look at this one. To deal with information in the web environment is needed a logic, modes of reasoning rather than exact. Okay, now this is much better. Okay, you're taking support. Again, you're taking support here. These both ones are better than this one. You can check them, read them later yourself. And here you see some, again, common, let's say, not mistake, but common, I mean, carelessness here, like this one. Brilliant, such kind of words. It would be intelligent. Brilliant example of. See, now this is ambiguous. I mean, it's not clear. I mean, if you use words like this, both readings require support. In particular, the second version. This one requires support more than this one. See, this one is more, I mean, more humble, like this one. Okay, you see, this is just stating that it's a good example of something, but this one is claiming that it is a brilliant, so it's a more strong argument, like it requires more support either by your own evidence or taking support from other researchers. This one can be interesting, this one can be interesting, and this one can be instructing. You look at this. Now these are proper, and they also note that in the sentences above, the author agrees with Lennart. See, these are just positive referencing. Now, you see that if you use words like this, it means that you're disagreeing with Lennart while you're referencing correctly again. And this one, the last one, is a neutral one. In the sentence above, the author is neutral with regard to the truth of the statement given here by Lennart. Okay, you see that this one showing that it's neutral, referencing an argument here. Okay. Okay. Oops, this one is a mistake. Okay. Again, there's an example here taken from a student's text. Now, the most popular ways to compress data are the Huffman coding and Shannon-Fano coding. It is unclear on what basis of compression methods are judged to be popular. You see, again, this is a pretty common mistake or pretty common carelessness done by researchers. If you use words like this, ambiguous words like this, I mean, you can get yourself in trouble. You should support this idea with the number of compressed files. By means of what popular? I mean, so many compressed files for this, or so many users doing this, or are there so many developers doing this? Statistical evidence would be pretty useful here. In each case, statistical evidence seems to be required. For example, this one is pretty good. Now you're taking support, you can go ahead. Now this makes sense. You can use this word, no need to use this anyway. Just use this, and it will show people that it is popular anyway. They could understand. So good. In this session, we discussed the citing issues. We mentioned about plagiarism, citing and references, types of bibliography, and citing, quoting, and getting support methods. If you want to look at the bibliographic tools for academic writing, you can refer to this site here. I have taken the introductions to those tools from that site, or you can Google them if you like.